how long can they enjoy? All those who have enjoyed their life for a certain period, we have seen, we have heard how they grumble, how they cry, how they worry about their life. So it clearly shows the purpose of life is not enjoyment. That can create more suffering, more frustration, more disappointment. If not, we can divert our mind in this way. We like to exist. We want to survive. Or we want to live. To do some service to others. By doing some service to others, we serve ourselves. Otherwise we cannot serve ourselves without serving others. That is selfishness. If we try to serve ourselves without serving others, it is selfishness. You might have heard this well-known Sanskrit sayings, the purpose of life. Paratha charyaya satang hi jivanam. The purpose of life is paratha charyaya, to serve others, to do some service to others. Then the purpose of life can be gained. So if you or if we remain as selfish people without doing some service to others, there are various ways for us to serve. Not by donating something, by cooperating, extending our kindness and understanding and harmony and unity without creating troubles and worries and disturbances and without creating problems. There are various ways to serve others. If you allow others to live without disturbing them, that is the higher service. Without accusing, without condemning, without cursing, without disturbing others. If you know how to look after, attend to our work without disturbing and interfering and bluffing and swindling and hurting others' feelings, that is a service. So paratha-charya, purpose of life is to lead a noble life, respectable life without disturbing others. If possible, do some service also to release their suffering. So in that sense, we can make use of this life for better purpose. So during my stay in Australia, after my operation, I have given few public talks in Sydney and Melbourne, and people invited me to go there again and again. And Reverend Mahida says, I cannot reject this invitation because during my operation I have lost 1300 cc blood, replaced by Australian blood. He said, now I got Australian blood, therefore I must go there. So cannot escape. Anyway, let us see. It is very, although I had to suffer, although Mahida and others also had to suffer because of me, it's a very successful mission. And these realizations also appear in my mind in the hospital. After that, I have done some service to others also. Now, I invite Mahida to continue to give usual Friday talk. Thank you.
I think what you have heard from Chief Reverend just now I think it's quite sufficient. So perhaps if you like to raise some questions, because right now, I do not have any subject in mind to talk to you. But if you have some questions you wish to raise, then I will try to carry on from there. Any questions you have? From what you have heard over the last 2 months in Chief Reverend's absence, that some of you might have been here and attended to other speakers. So if you have anything that you wish to clarify, do you have anything to clarify? No. No, never mind. You can sit down quietly. Anybody, this is your opportunity, nah? What have you been discussing last week? What did you discuss last week? Anybody? Who were here last week? Last Friday? Yeah? And what did they talk about? Can you remember? Loving kindness. Oh, last week about loving kindness. You know everything about loving kindness now? And did you practice loving kindness? And when you practice, do you come across some difficulties? Some problems? What are the problems that confront you? Oh yes, I was just about to tell you. Some creatures, they don't respond to loving kindness so well, you know. Yes, any questions you want to bring up tonight? Oh, without practicing dana and sila, is it possible to practice metta? Actually, dana is an expression of metta. When you do dana, when you give something, it is already an expression of your metta in action. And this metta, it is actually found in all of us to some degree. It's a matter of degree of how much we have cultivated. In the sutta, in the discourse, how the Buddha advised us how to systematically reflect about others and about ourselves. When we consider about others and see how all beings, we want to be happy, you want to be happy, you want to be well, you want to be happy. Others too want to be well, others too want to be happy. So when we can consider this and clearly in our mind, then naturally we have the wish, just as others wish to be happy. I wish to be happy, others too wish to be happy. So the thought comes that may others be well and happy too. And so if you have that thought, because when you give, if you do not have metta, you cannot really give. Because giving something, you make a person happy. When you give something to others, anything you give, that you help to make that person happy, you give happiness to others. There is the joy of giving and the joy of receiving. And of course, It is said that the joy of giving is more than the joy of receiving. And sila, restraint. You also restrain when you practice the various precepts and various other restraining morals and ethics. For what purpose? Firstly, for your own protection, for your own well-being and happiness. And next, for the well-being and happiness of others. That's why the 5 precepts, the basic 5 precepts, has been so much emphasized by the Buddha. The main purpose is to bring about a kind of, to have harmony, to live in harmony within the family, within the society and the nation. Because if you avoid killing, then you spare the lives of others. If you avoid, actually all beings want to live too. Sometimes we get a bit upset when the mosquitoes come and give us a few bites. But when we come to think of it, right, they also have to eat, they also have to find food, no? So when you have pity for them, you allow them to take something. Yes. And if you allow them to take something, I watch a few times, but sometimes still, because for a long time I have not been bitten by mosquitoes, you see. So now coming back, it's a new experience. You have to start developing the tolerance for them to endure the bites, and big bites here and there. Yes, and because during the cold seasons there are no mosquitoes there, but there are some other things. They have ticks and leeches, but in the cold they did not come up. You see, it's only just about when we were about to return, when we were in Melbourne, it started to warm up there, and we found a couple of them, but not as bad as this one. And I also found when I was in Thailand, in Bangkok, there are a lot of mosquitoes there, but they are quite disciplined because they come out certain time, in the forest too. In the forest, these mosquitoes come out just before sunset, and then when it gets dark, a lot of mosquitoes then. And then in the morning, before sunrise or just sunrise, a lot of mosquitoes come out. But in between, they are not so active. And but here, they don't consider time, all the time. Even I turn on the fan, they go below, they fly all below. Terrible fellows here, very undisciplined. But when I consider that they are new, that new generation, they because they're not so bad. If they have beaten many people and if they come and bite us, then anyway, we have still not found the method. But talking about mosquitoes, if we can watch, I remember one story. This is not a Buddhist story, but this story was told to me. I think maybe some of you know, it's a Confucianist story. How this one son, and the mother is very old and sick, and this son is looking after the mother, and there are lots of mosquitoes. So what to do? The son sacrificed himself. He removed his shirt, and then naturally he becomes the target of the mosquitoes. Mosquitoes, their behavior is such that when they have enough, when they have taken sufficient food for themselves, they are satisfied, then they don't go around making trouble for other people. They are not like human beings, Human beings, after having a big meal, then they become restless and they have the energy to go and fight and quarrel with other people. But mosquitoes, when they have enough, they are heavy, they will go fly somewhere and they rest there until they become hungry again, and then they come again to find food. So what happened was, this boy had sacrificed himself, and he let all the mosquitoes to come to bite. And after the mosquito have sufficient, so they don't attack the mother. They don't attack the mother so much. See? So it is said after some time, and he grew up, and he was a very intelligent boy, and then he had to sit for government examination to become a government official. He had to sit for an examination, and in that examination he had written some characters, Chinese character, and he has forgotten, because the nature of Chinese character, if you miss a dot or a stroke, then the whole meaning changes, different meaning. So he wrote some characters, and some characters he had forgotten to put the dot somewhere. And what happened? You know what happened? The mosquito came flying and came to the right place, and to remind him to put the dot there. Because this is how it's a moral story. How many of you have heard this story? There are 24 such stories. How, in fact, in Chinese schools, they teach this moral, they teach this story. This was told to me again and again by my grandmother. That's why I can remember. How we should be filial, respect to our parents, look after them, and be able to sacrifice. And in return, we see the good results too. They come too. So in case you want to sacrifice yourself for mosquitoes, very good. Anyway, that is when you do something good, like what Chief Reverend had mentioned, right? When you do service to others, naturally you will be served, but not to do service in order to be served. When you do service with pure mind, and just now Chief Reverend told you how he experienced and how he had the opportunity to realize what dukkha is about. And we too had our share of experience to see the power of meritorious actions, the power of service. Because his whole life here, he has dedicated, he has given his heart to everybody, everything. That's why he had to mend his heart, you see. Because he has an open heart for everybody. And every time you can see him lying down there and people can come, you don't get this thing so in many places. And in many places where you go, even to professionals, they have consultation time, certain hours consulting time, And but where Chief Reverend is concerned, there is no consulting time. Any time is consultation time. You see? So he has taxed the heart too much. And so he has to mend that heart. Now that it is mended, so we have observed how from the time he arrived there and the people that he met, and they were all those people who have heard, and actually Chief Reverend have forgotten them already. Many of them, when they were in university technology, that time was technical college, that time, and then teachers training, technical college, and MU, and then after their graduation, some of them have migrated there, and when they heard Chief Reverend is there, they come to see Chief Reverend, and we can see the joy, happiness, and some very well-known psychiatrists, doctors, engineers, and when they talk, when they meet Chief Reverend, of course I sometimes do not know them. Sometimes I know some of them, but I can see joy coming up Chief Reverend's face, and when there is joy, his mind gets stronger, more strong, and but when there are no people, we try to keep, sometimes, we are afraid too many people come, so we don't inform some people. When there are no people come little bit, and see the mind become a bit weak and feel very itchy and very, pain here, pain there. But when people start to come, no more pain. So every time we tell him to take rest, his way of resting is, when people come and he give Dhamma, he talk, he get a lot of rest. But this is also, we also found this kind of experience. And sometimes when we talk Dhamma, then piti, some kind of joy arise in our mind, and we get that energy. We get that energy to talk and talk further. But after that, when people all go back, we feel very tired too, So the joy of giving Dhamma, and he gets all the best of facilities, best doctors and best nurses too. You won't expect, because Chief Reverend still, when he go Australia, still he cannot get used to the Australian slang, and at the most critical time, after the operation, after the big operation, and if you have somebody come to tell you something that you cannot understand, it'll be very frustrating, Sometimes you can get very angry with them too. But it so happened that on that day that he was up in the critical care unit, and we could not go in for a very long time. We can only go in for a couple of hours and we have to go back. But he had somebody, he had a Sinhalese nurse, a nurse who is working in the critical care unit and happened to be on duty. So when I went there, Chief Reverend was very happy. Despite the fact all the tubes were there, he says, that one, Mrs. Fernando. And this nurse, she was a Buddhist. She was looking after, when Ananda Mangala, who passed away, when he went to Sri Lanka, he used to stay. He had stayed in her place. So she looked after Chief Reverend very well, And even when Chief Reverend went up, so then there was no problem about communication, and still speak. And she was able to, sometimes speak English with the Sinhalese, what they call accent, easy to understand. And so these little things. Now we cannot explain because that woman is not on duty all the time there. And you are in critical care unit not for a very long time, maybe only 1-2 days, and after that, And it so happened on that day and next day too she's on duty. So this is something that we cannot explain. Either it is that wholesome karma that comes to play, or some devas might have informed. But in this case, it was her duty. No? Sometimes some deva too. And there may be some deva controlling the weather. Made everything very fine, So much so that Chief Reverend still he has the impression, very fine weather in Australia. But it is not so. It so happens that from the time he arrived there, everything was very nice, The weather was clear and bright and sunny. After his operation, it rained for a little while. He could not see the rain because he was in the hospital. But after he came out again, the range of temperature was very good. Even when we left Sydney for Melbourne, fine weather. People in Melbourne say that before we came, they had 1 week of rain, heavy rain, and awful weather. But when we came, it was nice and sunny and dry. And yesterday, somebody telephoned from Sydney, or day before yesterday, and called Chief Reverend, and told Chief Reverend, Sydney is very hot there. Please come back. So this is something again that timely. If he had come for his operation in winter, then the conditions may not be so supporting, because when your body is weak and your immune system is weak, then in certain season, cold season, and when there is a great flux in what you call a change, great range of temperature, very easily one can get chill, and the virus in the air, one can get infected by them. And so, but very timely. So next time you want to go for operation in Australia, choose springtime or towards that. But still in springtime we cannot guarantee too. Sometimes there are some cold seasons and cold winds also. So the best insurance actually is your wholesome karma, your good action, And people have asked me before this question, that now you are a monk, you become a monk, and you have no wife, no children to look after you when you're old. Who look after you? And in fact, when I first became a monk, my parents too were very concerned for that, because their idea, their concept is that, when they grow old, they have children can look after them. But they change their mind after my higher ordination. We had the opportunity to go with Chief Reverend, visit Sri Lanka. And then my parents saw there how there are old monks there. They can live to old age. And they are being taken care of by so many people. Then they had that confidence. So they did not have that fear that their son may not be looked after. After I had contemplated, observed in various places, in the lives of various monks, and I come to that conclusion that we are looked after not by, really, our parents can look after us only
certain time, at certain time, up to certain extent. And when we grow old, our children, your children, can only look after you also for certain time, certain extent only. Who really looked after you? Do you know who really looked after you? Who? Yes. Uncle David knows very well. It's your karma. It's your wholesomeness. It is what you have done to others that as a result of that it comes back to you. And you do not expect it. Like Chief Reverend does not expect how when he left for Australia, he does not know who really going to help there. But everything just come, And we want to find a place to stay, for him to stay. And there was this devotee of ours, and offered us her place, her whole apartment, nobody, and the whole apartment to us. And it is right in the heart of city, and only 3 minutes drive to the hospital. What else do we want? And then out of the blue somebody come and telephone, because I was thinking that after operation he needs a proper bed, a hard bed, not a soft one, and should be high enough so that and just this thought came in my mind. After that a telephone came and said, Reverend, you know so and so in KL? I says, yes. He told me that there is one monk, this Chief Reverend, they call him Chief Reverend. He's here, and he told me that he asked me to do whatever I can for him. So what can I do for him? See, wonderful. And I told him, I just had in my mind now how to get a bed. He says, don't worry, I'll look after that. And what kind of bed you want? Then that's how he says, I'll fix it. And this person does not know Chief Reverend. But he had a good friend, maybe somewhere here, I do not know. And this good friend had written to him and says, there is this one monk, come and you please look after him, whatever you can do. And he had that kind of faith, that kind of confidence. We had met this person once or twice. We had been to his house once, but after that he did not contact us. But now when Chief Reverend came, he contacted us and offered his services, what he can do. And he came so happily. And, this is one instant. And now this thing again, you cannot explain in very rational sense, cannot explain. This is some kind of karmic support, karmic and spiritual support. And then people, the best thing, some of our devotees that they don't come very much when we are around. But when Chief Reverend is around, they come every day. And look after him so well. So this again, and people come and ask us what he needs, what he requires. Vegetable overflowing from homegrown garden, vegetable. I do not know, some of you may know Dr. Ong, and he has garden, he grows, and so no spray, no preservative, no organically grown. He come and supply us that. So everything we found it, and this is certainly wholesome, the support, and So if you have confidence in that wholesomeness, wholesome action, it is your own action that will support you. And the lives. I think Chief Ravan has talked to you also about his horoscope. I think some of you may know, right? And how he says after a certain time his astrologer don't want to write anymore. But this is somewhere he has proof that astrology, as astrologers only know something, cannot really predict totally. If the mind, if the person has a strong mind, if your mind is weak, then karma takes its toll. That means, your life will be governed by your actions, your day-to-day actions and your habitual actions. The past karma comes and you are influenced by them. But if your mind is strong, you have very strong mind, then you can overcome, you can prolong your lifespan too. The Buddha has done that. Buddha knew that he was going to die, but he prolonged his life. There were some other monks too. I remember once when some very well-known monk, Dhammananda, was very ill, felt very ill in Singapore, and Chief Reverend happened to be there, and Chief Reverend spoke about the goodness and gave him that inspiration, and again he had that strength to confront the sickness, the illness, and that will to live came up. Then he went on to live for quite some time. So this thing, it is something that we see again and again. So when you can see, when you observe these things, naturally it helps you. It gives you faith, confidence in the Dhamma, that the Dhamma can be verified. We say good begets good, evil begets evil. That is the law of karma. But good and bad, good action gives rise to good results. Bad action gives rise to bad results. Good and bad action gives rise to good and bad results. They don't cancel off. They are not neutralized. There is one kind of action which is neither good nor bad, gives rise to neither good nor bad results. And when we try to develop and purify our mind, then that activity of purifying the mind through meditation, that action is neither good nor bad. The result is neither good nor bad. If we have good, if we do good, we will see good results, right? What is the good result? Good result means we get many things, and many people come to see us. Now this is good result. But to experience this good result, still we have to be born again and again. So that is why in the teachings of the Buddha has very systematically taught and says, summarize his teachings in this way: Sabba papasa akaranam. Try to avoid all evil. Kusalasa upasampada. To do the good. Cultivate the good. Sachitta pariyo dapanang. Purify one's own mind. Purify your own mind. This is the teaching of all Buddhas. Buddha said. All the Buddhas in the past that have come before him, he says, they all taught this. Now, Buddha encouraged us first to avoid evil and to do good. After that, even the good actions we should not cling to. If we cling to doing good, still we have to be born. If not in the human plane, in the Deva realm or what other realms, in some other planes of existence, in order to experience that wholesome result. And that is why, if after we have gone through enough suffering and realize the unsatisfactory nature of this life, then the thought may arise in us, it is enough suffering that I have gone through. Now I like to work to put an end to suffering. And if I can put an end to my suffering, then I can give more inspiration. I can help more people. And when that thought comes to our mind, surface up again and again, then we start to think how we can overcome suffering once and for all. In order to overcome, we have to overcome all pains of craving, attachment. To purify our mind. And to purify our mind, we need to cultivate, to culture this mind, so that the mind can see, can become steady and see. And the actions, neither good nor bad. So when we meditate, sometimes we have good thoughts. Good thoughts come up in our mind. When good thoughts come up in our mind, then sometimes we have the strong wish to want to do something. But if we want to further develop our mind, then we must know how to let go of these good thoughts too. Good thoughts can be a hindrance when we want to develop and purify our mind. Because when those good thoughts come up, we want to go, and then we abandon our practice. We give up our practice because we want to go and help more people, like that. You see? But we must know that we should not abandon good thoughts too quickly. We should do more and more good until it becomes very natural, until the realization comes, until we have that strong confidence that it is possible for us to transcend. And then we go on to develop our mind, and we let go even the good thoughts that come in our mind, we can just see the good thoughts and let them go. And so if bad thoughts come in our mind, we know it, we are aware of it, we let go of the thoughts. And then by observing in that way, we let go of evil, we let go of the good too. And in that way, we start to do accumulate this kind of karma, which is neither good nor bad. So in effect, the resultant effect of that karma, neither good nor bad karma. But there is peace, there is calmness, there is peace of mind. And we serve others, It is only when we serve others that we can realize the nature of unsatisfactoriness, the nature of dukkha. If you stay only in your home, under your roof, you do not know how much suffering there is around you. But the moment you start to want to help, you start to help your relative, your neighbors, then you begin to see how unsatisfactory it is. And not only that, when you are helping others, there are some people will appreciate, but not everyone will appreciate your help. Some will blame you, some will accuse you. Then what happens? Then you will start to think. You are confronted with more dukkha. Then you begin to see the unsatisfactory nature of things. Until you do it, try to do it with the pure mind, with a good mind. And then you see more and more and more. Then you will start to think. You are confronted with more dukkha. Then you begin to see the unsatisfactory nature of things. Until you do it, try to do it with the pure mind, with a good mind. And then you see more and more and more. As you go out more, have more compassion, more service, and you will see more and realize, be able to realize dukkha, the unsatisfactory nature of life. And then when you realize that, little by little the thought will come in your mind to want to get out, to want to be free from suffering, to let go. This is what you call right thought, what the thought of nekkhamma sankappa. You feel, you think, you start to think like you want to renounce, you want to give up. But still you cannot, because you are still tied down. You have your duty, your responsibility. So the way that you have to do it is with patience, with tolerance, fulfill your duty, fulfill your obligations. Then you will have the opportunity. When you fulfill your duty, when that thought comes to your mind, you should keep that aspiration to be free from suffering. And then you should make your aspiration. This is where aspiration plays a very important part of our life. We aspire. When we do some wholesome action, when we fulfill our duties, our obligations towards one another, and we can make that aspiration, that by this wholesome action, may this wholesomeness pave the way for us to have more opportunity to develop our mind, to purify our mind, and pave the way for us to put an end to all suffering. And that is the meaning of that line. Sometimes you hear some monks say, when you offer something, they tell you, Nibbana Pachayo Hotu. That means, Nibbana Pachayo Hotu. That may this action, this wholesome action, be a condition for the attainment, for the realization of Nibbana. When you perform action with that intention, with that aspiration in your mind, all your wholesomeness will pave the way for you to have more and more opportunity and practice and lead you out of suffering once and for all. So this is how. But until such time, we have to fulfill our duty, our obligations to one another. And when we do our duty to one another, that is the wholesome action, that is the good karma. We see the good results too. So if we see the good results because parents do their duty towards children, parents look after the children, they advise them to avoid evil, encourage them to do good, and they look after their safety, and then they train them, educate them. So when you fulfill your duties such as this, naturally, when they grow up, according to the law of karma, then they in turn support, they look after you. So this is, in conventional sense, you say, my son, my children are looking after me. But in reality, it is that wholesomeness that you have put in, that wholesomeness now ripen, and you see the good results. And if you can have this kind of confidence, then you should not cling only to that idea, my son. Sometimes you may not have sons. Sometimes you may not have children. Then you think, oh, then who's going to look after me? Maybe you have to do old folks home. Well, don't worry. You can do. Anyone that is in need of help, anyone that is in need, needy, you can help wholeheartedly. Don't have the kind of ulterior motive, which actually the love that parents have towards their children. In most cases, if the parents have not really developed their mind, they still have this kind of selfish craving. They give something but they expect in return too, right? They expect in return, now I spend so much, my son will become doctor, engineer, and then 1 month he can give me so much, like that. Do it. And then that son don't give her, disappointed and very upset. That kind of just do good without that kind of motive in your mind. And this is why when we train ourselves to do dana, very often when people do some good action, still they have something, they want to expect something in return. But if we can do something, and when we understand that wholesome action we do is enough, if we have confidence that the effect will be there, right? And so no need to cling to whether people repay your goodness or not, never mind. Whether people record or not, never mind. Sometimes they do good, people want to do good, but nobody knows that they are doing good. So they must inform other people, I give this to temple, they must inform. When people are around, they will give. But people are not around, they don't give, Why? This is something we have to learn. And whatever goodness you do, sometimes you do it very quietly. Nobody knows. But who knows? People say, God knows. No. We say, who register all your wholesome action? Then some Chinese people say, they have the kitchen god, and they register, and then, they go and inform. They go and inform upstairs, the grandpa upstairs, and inform you all the goodness that you have done. But this is, it is good for people who like that kind of reassurance that when they do something good, somebody must record it. But never mind, if you do something good and people do not know, nature will record it. Nature will record it for yourself. And that is why, do you know that story, how the Buddha, if you look at some of the Buddha images, you see when the Buddha, he sits down and he puts his hand, one hand he puts like that, and the other hand pointing to the earth. There is a very good story behind this posture. When Mara attacked the Buddha, Devaputta Mara, before the Buddha gained enlightenment, Mara attacked. And all the devas that assembled there also got so frightened, they also ran away. The Buddha was left alone. Then Mara challenged the Buddha and asked the Buddha, what right have you got to be here? And Buddha said, and Buddha made his by his virtues, the goodness he has done. But Mara asked him, who knows? Who witnessed? Who saw all your goodness? Then the Buddha said, let the earth bear witness. Let the earth bear witness to my goodness. Please keep this in your mind. In case sometime you do something good, you donate something to the temple and they forget to mention your name, don't get angry. And some people get very upset when they name sometimes, even during the sponsorship of full moon, new moon days, they wait only for the name to be mentioned. Suddenly, sometimes the name be mispronounced or, and left out. They get very upset. They say, I won't come full moon, new moon anymore. That as we develop our mind, as we grow spiritually, we must understand this, that goodness that we do, whether somebody mention it or not, it is good. But on the other hand, some people when they do good, they say, oh, don't want name like that. Sometimes it is good if you allow us sometimes to mention to others, because it can encourage other people to do good too, right? So this is the position in Buddhism. One extreme is people want their names to it. Another position, another extreme, they don't want their name. So sometimes we must allow, if we know, right, we don't cling to it. But if people want to use to encourage, as a matter to encourage others to do good, then it's okay. But if they forget our name, okay also, never mind. And this is how we start to develop more and more until we can develop our mind and we see everything as good like that. We were told how one old monk in Thailand, how he practiced. His way of practice. Different monks, different teachers have different ways of practice. Now this one monk, he has one way of practicing. And his way of practicing is when some devotee come to complain to him. One day this devotee come and point out, so and so, your attendant, your close to you, he has done this very bad thing and police is after him now. And this old monk say, good, good. This person who came to complain, he did not know what, And then, so he went away. And then after that, next time, some other devotee come and say, he says, how come I see, you have so many good devotees, they are so well disciplined, they are, And this old monk say, good, good. And then another person come on some other occasion. Some people bring food to him, and then very tasty food to him. And so after eating, he says, good. He says, very good. And sometimes, they bring, some people forget their day of offering dana, they forget, so they did not bring. And then the devotee come, one devotee come and say, oh, they did not bring food for you. And then you look and tell him, good, This must be mad, this monk must be really mad, And but he says, never mind, become mad monk, but have good mind is okay, rather than have become good monk and have bad mad mind. So sometimes when we want to practice, this is how this monk try to practice and have equanimity. Have equanimity. It's very difficult, but you can see, right? If the food don't come to you, and you say, good, it's an opportunity for me to do some fasting, to practice, to clear my bowel. I can drink water and clear my bowel. If I get good food, good also. And so, if somebody report and somebody do something wrong and he is caught, good. He learned something. But if somebody do something good and people praise him, it's good because, he does good action, praise him. So, this is the practice we can, if we want to purify our mind, we have to learn to see. Whatever happened, it happened for the good, like that. Whatever happened for the good. If you can take it this way, then you can overcome problem. You can overcome your worries, difficulties. You can confront a lot of problems. Now sometimes, now in Australia, we have opportunity. People come from different, because when Chief Reverend go, I have to adjust myself to the Sinhalese custom and tradition. But when I am with another Thai meditation teacher and all the Thai devotees there, I have to adjust myself to the Thai tradition too, right? In order to promote peace, harmony. Otherwise, if we are in their company, because they see something, like I will tell you one instant, and the tradition here, when the Sri Lankan tradition, monk tradition, when the monk sit down, then the lay people will not sit down, they will stand, and they offer food. When they offer food, they will stand and they will offer the monk food, because the monk sit down on the chair and sit down table, then you offer, then you will stand and to observe, But in another tradition, when the monk sit on the floor, so we have Sri Lankan devotee too. So when the Sri Lankan devotee come, they offer food, they stand up, and then they offer food into the bowl, and then they stand there, And the Thai tradition, when you offer food, and if the monk is seated on the floor, you don't stand. You should, sit down. You should, sit down there. You stand very rude, like that. So sometimes they don't understand this tradition, And so we have to slowly. There are, although we practice the same kind of Buddhism, but tradition, custom, tradition differs from place to place. So we have to understand and have to respect the tradition in different place, because tradition is important in order to maintain peace and harmony. Okay. So we see different people, and people coming from different places, come from different countries. All these people who come from different countries, they must have a lot of money to come, to fly and come for a little while and go back when they have money. But they must have problem too, because if they don't have problem, they won't come and see teacher, from far away. So naturally, they also have their own style of doing things. And so we see many things. Different people come, have different way, different wanting to do this thing, another one want to do this thing, another one. But good practice too. It has helped us to learn to see things and to see it is natural. Everything they have their own way of doing it. And so we try to let go, can let go more like that, you see. So please see everything when you practice Dhamma and avoiding evil, doing good, and when you want to start, and you should start to purify your mind too. When you want to purify your mind, don't try to look outside too much. When you see outside, the more you see outside, the more you look at others, the more suffering you have in you. Right? Try to look inside. Try to cultivate, look within you and see and watch so that you can let go more and more. Eventually let go of what? Let go of the clinging. Let go of the hatred, the anger that we have. When we see something wrong, what others do, we get angry, we get upset. We should learn how to let go, because people, they have their own way, they have their own karma, they have their own. If we can help them, if they like to listen to us, if they have faith, they have confidence, well and good. If they don't have faith, we better keep quiet, look inside and practice inside us. So this is what we have to say to you a little bit, and we hope that your interest, you make a point to come again and again and listen again and again. We hope something can go in, if not everything, but something can go in, and then what you can accept, try to practice little by little. The practice revolves around avoiding evil, doing good, and purifying your mind. And the wholesomeness that you acquire now, and all the good actions that you have performed in the absence when Chief Reverend is the way, and you come together, and please, you can try and share these merits. You can dedicate and share these merits to all others. You can think of all the devas or celestial beings, wherever they may be. Let them rejoice in this wholesomeness. And also you can think of all your departed relatives, friends, and wish that these merits pave the way for them to be well and happy, and they may have opportunity to be with Dhamma, to grow with Dhamma, and eventually be free from all sufferings. So by all this meritorious action, we wish you all have long life, good complexion, good complexion, sukhang, happiness, and balang, strength, that you have the strength, energy in your mind, that you'll be able to confront whatever weaknesses, whatever unwholesome tendencies, and be able to cultivate the good and purify your mind and be free from all sufferings. Good health and peace to all of you.
Reverend Mahinda's metta is very vast. To answer the question whether one can practice metta without dana and sila, he has spoken 1 hour 15 minutes. Various ways he tried to explain. I remember a very interesting incident. That is why I took the mic. This is very important for you also. When I was in that critical condition in the ward, doctors have given certain drugs or injection for me to forget everything, and what I have done during that period. That means my senses are not working with any of these external objects. Only subconscious mind is working and active. During that period, I have given so many talks. I have written so many books. And I have been giving instruction to certain activities of the temple. I remember one day when I was giving a talk at daytime, suddenly Mahida came. Then asked, "What are you talking?" Then I told him, "I am giving a talk." "To whom?" people. Then I opened my eyes, nobody around, only in the world. And he told me he has seen that I have been writing books. What I am trying to tell you, I think you can remember, I always explain, amongst the various karma that we accumulate during our lifetime, one particular karma is called habitual karma. The karma that we perform as a habit. When our mind is not occupied with external object, naturally our mind gets into that track very easily. Then we can avoid, if the deeds, the habits are good, then evil deeds what we have committed won't get the chance to interact. I have been contemplating, thinking, planning, talking for more than 40 years about religious talks and publications and religious activities. My mind is used to these things, but not gossiping and abusing and accusing and cursing and all the other dirty things. Now I have confidence. When I am going to die, evil thought never appear in my mind. One of these good deeds that I have done during my lifetime naturally appear in the mind. So, 4 days I have been giving talk, religious talk, but no rubbish, and writing and giving instruction. Giving a talk about the no-shade programs. I remember very well how I explained. So this is a very good lesson for all of us to train our mind to get used to certain good deeds, and naturally at the last moment, although we have done some mistake and we have committed certain bad things, but the chances are there for us to recall. Subconscious mind can project these good deeds that we have done. This is the good news that I would like to convey. Thank you. Okay. Akasatta Jabummatta Deva Naga Mahidika Punyantang Anumoditva Chirang Rakantu Lokasas Itta Uta Chayame Sambhatang Punya Sampadang Sabbi Deva Anumodantu Sabba Sampati Itta Uta Chayame Sambhatang Punya Sampadang Sabbi Deva Anumodantu Sabba Sampati Ditya Idang Hodati Lang Hotu Sukita Hontu Nyatayo Imina Punya Kammi Mami Bala Samag Satang Samagamo Hotu Yava Nibbana Patya. So from tomorrow onward there will be 2 weeks programs. Tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock or 4:30, isn't it? 4:30 shaving ceremony, and evening bar rehearsal, and Sunday morning ordination ceremony about 9 o'clock. This is the 15th no-shade programs.